Hello all, welcome to Sunrise Learning, and today's topic is on the base configuration of call manager. So after installing a call manager, there are some mandatory things that we need to done, and some services that we need to install or to restart. So some initial configuration that is required for any CUCM to work. So we are going to discuss this thing in a detail. So let's start. So these are some I've noted down some services, or you can say some mandatory steps that you need to perform. And first one is like a server group, and NTP, TFTP, DHCP, DNS, region, date and time group. So this is I can say then 10 or 12 things that we need to have to configure on a call manager. So let's discuss about every what is server group, these things in detail. So like on Cisco, everyone knows that NTP, network time protocol, what it does basically, like this is we configure this NTP in CUCM so that my phone get a proper timings, and suppose I have deployed any cluster in Latin America. So what my priority is, like if I'm my phone should take the right time, whatever the correct time is in uh, Latin America, so it should take that time. So that's why, like, we configure a network time protocol in call manager. And and basically while like the status of this NTP, it should be 1. Like 1 is always good, because like it take directly time from the satellite, so it's most accurate, but it's costly. Alright, so trouble file transfer protocol, this is this like we configure it in CUCM, and basically it's used for taking a like the image that that image take from a CUCM while booting up any Cisco phone. So basically it depend upon two type of we can configure two type of phones in CUCM, like one is a SIP and CUCM, and another one is a SCCP. So SCCP is basically a Cisco proprietary protocol. So for CUCM there are some predefined file which CUCM pushes to TFTP server, so that the phone get those file after the booting. Alright, and this is a dynamic host configuration protocol. This parameter we also have to define, and basically what it does, like and it's basically used for it assign an IP addresses to your phone. Suppose if you have a 5 phone, and so every phone is going to be getting a different IP addresses along with a along with subnet mask default gateway. So DHCP is the one who's going to give them the different every phone has a unique IP addresses, and through that unique IP addresses they talk to switch, and from switch our data goes out, or like the communications happen in a simple layman language. And second one is a domain name system that that is also mandatory, like have to configure an SUCM, because without things, I can say that it's not mandatory, but we do it because what it does, like it just simply convert your IP address into the naming convention, or like suppose if I on a Google I type 10.95.195.200, so that IP addresses is going to be converted into the name of the CUCM, or like whomsoever the company has installed the CUCM. So it will going to check the certificate, and the IP address will be converted into the name. So that is also our domain name system is also mandatory while deploying any call manager. And there are some initial services, or I can say it's some mandatory services, like once the CUCM is installed. So like if you have a multi-cluster, you have a pub also and subscriber also, so there are some services which are mandatory and that we restart on publisher. So those network services, there are two type of services: network services and feature services. So network services, these are the mandatory services, like if your DHCP has got stopped, or like if the DHCP is stopped, so it means like your phone is not going to get an IP addresses. So if that services is stopped, so you have to go into the network services, you will have to start that services. Only after restarting that services your phone will get an IP addresses. So all the network services are very much mandatory, like once you have installed this CUCM. So it's initially after a post check we do check our services if any mandatory like TFTP is down or your DHCP is down. So these are services we have to restart them, or they got stopped, so we can refresh them also. Alright, and feature services are like, feature services are I won't say that it's a mandatory, like they run on a network services. So like my Tomcat service is down, or my Apache service is down, so those services like we have to restart them, because without them like I'll not be able to access my CUCM GUI page. And in CUCM there are enterprise parameters also, service parameter also. So those settings we also have to take care of. Like enterprise services are basically a cluster wide parameters. So whatever the changes I'm going to make on a publisher, suppose if I have a publisher and two subscriber node also, so whatever the changes I'm going to make on my publisher, it's going to replicate to the subscriber. So suppose if I change a time value of the call routing, so if I change it, by default it's at 30, so if I reduce it to 15, so by changing the 15 on publisher side, it's going to replicate the same to your subscriber side also. And there are some service parameters also. So service parameters like they are predefined services which are automatically comes up when we deploy this any call manager. So that we are also going to see in the later. And calling search spaces. So whatever the things we have discussed till now, these are, you can say that, mandatory steps or some initial configuration which we have to configure it so that our CUCM can communicate with my another server. So another important step is like calling search spaces. So these are basically in layman terms, if I talk about that, is just like giving a right, or like giving some permissions to our phone or to gateway for like placing a call. So CSS is like we define some parameters like in MNCs, or like we have to define our call routing. Suppose if I have some 10 VIP users, so those 10 VIP users I have to give them the international accesses, but I don't want those international access to my all the employees in my company. So I can define the this routing into two part, like one a local within the company, so, and another one is the international, so that is only for the VIP customers. So though that I can define it with the help of CSS. And so CSS is basically going to your phone need to have the CSS before placing a call. There is a proper hierarchy which we are going to discuss later on. And partitions. So partition and CSS, they work correlately to each other. If I have the partition and I don't have the CSS, then things will not work. So partitions is like it's a directory numbers or the root patterns with a similar reachability, you can say. So suppose I have a partition, suppose if I have two gateways and one, so basically that is also mandatory for on CUCM initial configuration. So without partition and CSS, my users will not be able to make a call, or they'll not be able to receive a call. So same previous example, we can define as a partition as a long distance call. So for 10 VIP users, I'm going to create a one partition, and I'm going to apply that in CSS. So and that profile will only be applicable for my 10 VIP users. So phone is going to check the CSS and gateway is going to place a call. And there is another bulk administration tool. It is like bulk administration tool is basically used like you have a multi-users, or you want to configure a phone, you want to deploy 2000 phones as per your CUCM capacity. Like suppose if you have installed a 9.x, so you have a 10,000 users that you want to have to configure on CUCM. So in that case, like Cisco does give an opportunity to use a bulk administration tool. It is a web-based tool. There are some predefined templates under there. You have to download them and put the first name, last name, and the numbers that we are going to give to those particular users. So that's also a very important tool, and mainly like in every big migrations, like we use it. And okay, so trunk is, I can say the trunk is also a very important thing. And the trunk is basically like it helps the two different servers to communicate. Two different to communicate. Suppose I have just have a I've configured a CUCM. So what the CUCM is going to do is it's going to configure the phone. It's going to configure. It's going to place a call. But there are some users. We also have to give them some voicemail facilities. So for a Unity connection, Cisco does give us a product called Unity connection that is basically used for voicemail features. So if you want to communicate, if you want to interconnect these two servers, so that we have to, in that case, we have to configure the trunk. So in trunk we basically put an IP address of the Unity connections, and then we run some wizards that we are going to do it later on. So by trunk means like joining a two servers, or it could be a three server. Suppose you also have a presence in your environment, and your user want to use a CUPS facility, like IAM and presence facility. So in that case you'll have to create a separate trunk. Trunk is basically one trunk is for one particular server. You can't have a one trunk with multiple servers. That is possible, but in the case of redundancy or region, that is also a very important configuration, or in the base configuration of CUCM. Region is basically like we define the bandwidth value or the codecs, which is going to the quality of the voice, you can say. Suppose I can define it two regions or multiple regions. So region is basically tells my, suppose if my only within the company I want to use a G729. So G729 is a codec which give us a very good voice over IP, and so that's why like for internal calls I can have a higher bandwidth calls with the G729, and for intercluster, like my another cluster is in US and one is in India. So because if any user is placing a call from India to US, so I'll not be give them that much of high quality codec. So I can have a G711, or I can use a ILBC. So by regions we just like segregate the codecs, the quality of the voice, you can say. So this is we are end with this CUCM base and configuration, and let's move on to this lab part, and let me take you to every section how we are going to configure each and everything. Thank you for watching, and let's connect it. See you in another video. Thank you very much.